And a pleasant good evening to everybody. We welcome you to our Tuesday night Ridgecrest Live, and I'm Tom Heck, Justus Scott, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs that happened this past weekend, touch a little bit on college football, and a few notes from some local sports, and I want to start there. Burroughs High basketball in action tonight. After you watch us, head on over to the gym. They're taking on Hesperia, their first league game of the season, their first ever Mojave River League game also. They had a couple nice wins last week, non-conference. They defeated Palmdale 54-50, and they had a good win against Lancaster 54-53, and the girls also won on Friday night. So when this is over, head on out. Justus, let's talk about the NFL. Let's start with number one, Indianapolis. I personally, I'll just admit, I didn't give Indianapolis a chance, not one chance to beat Denver in Denver. 24-13, everybody knows, or if you don't know, Indy won. How'd that happen?
Well, I think it simply happened from quarterback play. You saw Andrew Luck pretty much, I wouldn't say dominated the game, but had a tremendous game, passing game, controlling the line of scrimmage as far as the offense, field position. He just did a tremendous job. Third down conversions, I think they were over 70%, which you do that in the NFL, that's a great thing. But and the flip side, Peyton Manning didn't have his best showing, so I think you combine quarterback play with both those guys, and that's how the Colts come out with a win.
Let's take a look at those numbers. Andrew Luck on Sunday, 27 of 43 for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, although the interceptions really didn't hurt so much. And then really they did a good job, I thought, offensive line-wise, giving him opportunity to throw the football. But I think the story yesterday when they played was defensively. I think Indianapolis just shut down Denver. Whatever they tried to do, they were just one step better.
Oh, no question. You saw, especially in the secondary, they come right up and they were a yard or two away from the wide receivers, daring Peyton Manning and the Broncos offense to play one-on-one, which normally they don't. Teams mostly try to zone up Peyton Manning and the Broncos, but Colts certainly had a different game plan, which I think the last couple of weeks was an indication. You saw some teams, even in the regular season, doing that to Denver. But to me, what stood out the most was how they tackled. I mean, there's very few yards after catch. They did a tremendous job at tackling.
Now also, Dan Heron, the fine running back for Indy, 27 of 63. Not a huge day, but also a touchdown. And Denver C.J. Anderson, 18 carries for 80 yards. So Denver just really never got going. And it was interesting. I listened last night to their post-game show, their post-mortem, so to say, on KOA in Denver, which is a clear station. It's 8:50 a.m. and at night it really comes in clear. And there were a lot of people unhappy with John Fox, the head coach for Denver. But I really don't look at him to blame whatsoever. I just think that this day, Baltimore, Indianapolis just played a better game than Denver did. And the fact also with the tear in the leg and the quad, that's got to affect Peyton Manning, no matter what we say.
No, absolutely. And I don't know who was announcing the game the other day, but they mentioned that, how out of all the quarterbacks in the league, Peyton Manning uses his legs more than others. And you know, he's older and he's got a lot of wear and tear in that arm, and he's never really had the arm strength that some of these guys do, like Rodgers and some of the guys in the league. So he does have to use his lower body, and if that is off, that's injured, that's going to affect how he throws.
Now, Manning's numbers weren't horrible. 26 of 46, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nothing significant about those numbers, but when you're in pain, one thing I like about him, he's a competitor. If he was hurt, he sure wasn't going to tell anybody, which came to play in this one. Unfortunately, though, that was the 13th, that's a lot, playoff game that he has lost. That is tops in all of professional football. That's a record, so it's something that you don't really want to own, but again, you can't blame just Manning, and I don't think, really, I just think Indianapolis played the game of the year, in my opinion. Let's talk about the other game that was on Sunday, and that was a Green Bay-Dallas game. Not quite the Ice Bowl from 1967, which a lot of people talked about. That was the last time those two teams played in Green Bay in a playoff game. Now, back in 1967, it was about 13 below zero. The field was just iced over, hard as a brick, or maybe even worse than that, maybe jagged as a rock in some spots, according to those that played in it when I read some of this stuff and the different things they did over the years, talking to the players that played in that game. But not quite the same. It was about 21, 22 degrees in Green Bay, which is a pretty typical day in January for the Cheeseheads and all their followers over there. What did you think before that game started?
I thought the advantage certainly was with Green Bay, just because of the cold weather. And Dallas is, they're in a dome most of the time, or at least a stadium that could be put in to cover the roof if it's too cold out or bad elements. But with that being said, Dallas certainly handled themselves well and played through the elements. But like you said, it was 21 degrees, which is kind of, midsummer. There's some of those guys in Green Bay. Mm-hmm.
Now look at the numbers from that game. Tony Romo, 15 of 19, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Romo's a competitor, just a great gamer. And I think probably if you watch that game in the fourth quarter, about 5 minutes to go, with Dallas trying to make a comeback after Green Bay just scoring, the pass to Des Howard at about the 2-yard line. He looked like he caught it. But when he came down with it, when he hit the ground, the ball did come up loose a little bit. And by rule, whether it's a good rule or a bad rule, by rule that you have to make the catch and complete it when you come to the ground, there can't be any bobble, any indication that the ball was ajar or loose or trapped in order for that catch to be made. Even though, and here's the arguing point, even though after he caught the ball, he took about 2 steps, it was a tremendous catch no matter what. Either way, it was one of the best catches I've ever seen. He just elevated so high. Your thoughts on that one in our last 30 seconds?
Well, a couple things. It was a great catch. Again, a few years ago without instant replay, that stands for a touchdown, and now the Cowboys are playing the Patriots instead of the other, or playing the Seahawks the other way around. So, again, that's where instant replay comes in and gets it right.
Mm-hmm. And the refs give it, and the refs take it away, so to say, because the Dallas Cowboys might not, I won't say probably, but might not have been there had they not had a big call go their way on that pass interference against the Lions when the officials picked up the flag. When we come back, we'll have more on the NFL. Don't go away. Be back in just a few minutes. And welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk on this Tuesday night. Tom Heck, Justus Scott. We're talking about the NFL playoffs we had over the weekend. Some exciting moments there and some great moments throughout the postseason, the college level, and also the NFL. And we're not finished yet with all the NFL championship games and, of course, the Pro Bowl on the 24th and the Super Bowl on the 31st. That'll come from Arizona. All right, let's talk a little bit more. Jason Witten, the guy just never gets old. He's been there for what seems 50 years playing for the Cowboys at tight end. 6 catches, 71 yards, but a couple of those huge catches down the stretch to keep the momentum, the clock going. He's, and our producer engineer reminds us it's been 12 years since he joined the Cowboys. Boy, time flies.
Sure. Well, first of all, 12 years in the NFL is a long career. Most of the average 2 or 3 years at best guys are hoped for. So 12 years is certainly a long time to spend in the NFL, and it's been a great 12 years. He's one of the better tight ends to probably ever play, and might even be on the fringe of the Hall of Fame. But certainly Tony Romo's go-to guy, third down, and knows that he can trust Witten getting open and catching the ball.
Mm-hmm. And then on the other side of the football for Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, 24 for 35. Pretty good numbers there, 316 yards. Pretty typical for him when he's on his game. 3 touchdowns, and that's big also. I think without Rodgers playing as well as he has the last maybe 7-8 games of the season, Green Bay may not have been at home yesterday. Ed Lacy, their fine running back, 19 carries, 101 yards. And Devontae Adams, noteworthy, 7 catches, 117 yards. So before we look at Saturday's games, I want to also mention one of my favorite coaches, and maybe I shouldn't, say this, but it's Rex Ryan of the Jets. The Jets won 3 games this year. They really struggled. Ryan was fired by the Jets after the season was over, the Monday after they came home from playing Miami, but he was just hired officially really this morning, Sunday night, by a team that's right down the street, the Buffalo Bills. What do you think of that one?
Well, very interesting to stay within conference and get a chance. Knowing Rex Ryan, he is a character of the game that he'll probably enjoy playing the Jets now. For the last few years, he was enjoying kind of playing New England and try to always get Coach Belichick's goat and develop a rivalry there. And I could see that moving the Bills, doing it with the Jets. But he certainly is good for the game and good. And players love him, is what they say.
And his father, Buddy Ryan, who I really wouldn't consider a players type coach, he was an ornery guy. He and Vince Lombardi from the same type environment growing up. Very, very structured, very down to the point, unforgiving at times. Rex kind of a different mold. Rex more of a players type coach and a guy that'll do anything for his players. And it's hard not to like Rex Ryan, as tough as things were. And I think maybe if you give him a quarterback, without all the quarterback problems that the Jets have had this year, things might be different for Rex Ryan. Well, let's take a look at Saturday's games, and let's talk about Seattle over Carolina. I don't think a big surprise. Seattle ends up winning 31-17. Seattle, I think the remarkable thing, they finished, or not finished, but they're 13-4. Now, they were 3-3 at one time. I mean, Pete Carroll, what a motivator.
No, exactly. And talk about a player's coach. His guys love him, and they respond to him, which, believe it or not, I think is rare in professional sports because, again, those guys are grown men and paid millions and millions of dollars, and they respond to him very well. And exactly, I remember hearing they had a team meeting after 3-3, so whatever was said behind closed doors worked, and they are certainly they're playing well, probably playing best in the NFL right now.
And defensively and offensively playing very, very well. Let's take a look at the numbers from that game. First of all, for Carolina, Cam Newton, 23 of 36, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions, huge, happened in about the last 4 minutes of the game with Carolina driving, and that really probably put the nail in their coffin. John Stewart, their fine running back, 13 carries for 70 yards, and Kelvin Benjamin, 7 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Other than that, not a lot of noise. Carolina defense stepped up the week before against Arizona, a depleted Arizona team, but couldn't quite stop Seattle. Let me ask you about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, in my opinion, might be the most underrated quarterback that ever played in the NFL. Russell Wilson, 15 of 22, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He can run. He's like a point guard out there in the football field. Slippery, hard to bring down, and just one of the smartest players I've ever seen.
I agree with you totally that he kind of like a point guard, kind of like a catcher behind the plate in a baseball on a baseball team. He controls the game, makes very few mistakes, and you do that in the NFL and play field position. You have a great defense and don't throw interceptions. You got something for it.
And Marshawn Lynch, if you're wondering, and I was surprised. I thought he had more yardage than this. 14 carries, 59 yards, but just his presence out there, I think, brings a lot to the table for Seattle. Kelvin Benjamin, 7 catches, 75 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. He's kind of one of the go-to guys. All right, let's talk about New England and Baltimore. Now, New England defeated Baltimore 35-31. New England now 13-4. Baltimore finishes the season 11-7. Baltimore actually led 21-14 at the half, and then New England scores 21 points in the second half. They score 14 in the third quarter. Any surprise in this one?
No surprise. I mean, it was a close game. It was a good game. I think a lot of people thought Baltimore win just from past. They've played well in New England and seem to be the only team to beat Belichick and the Patriots. But he just, Brady, there's no surprise at all that comes from behind in the fourth quarter, and he is obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the league and has been for the last 10 years. So you got a quarterback like that, you got a chance.
Tom Brady, by the way, 33 completions, 33 of 50, 367 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Brandon Bolden, their fine running back, was their leading rusher, 3 carries, 7 yards. So I think we could safely say they won by air. A key interception also helped. Rob Gronkowski, 7 catches for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. So all kinds of credit there. Joe Flacco had a good game himself with 292 yards, 4 touchdowns, but 2 big interceptions. When we come back, we'll have a little bit more. We'll have our predictions. Take a look at some college stuff. Don't go away. This is Ridgecrest Talk on this Tuesday night. Back after this. And we are back. Welcome to our Tuesday night. Our theme is sports tonight. We've been kind of reviewing the NFL playoffs. We're going to just take a quick glance at some of the college bowl games that we had predicted successfully or unsuccessfully about a month ago. Let's talk about our predictions for the playoffs coming up this weekend. Let's start with the NFC. Green Bay, Seattle, at Seattle. Any guess?
It's a guess is exactly what it is, but this would be my kind of upset. I think Green Bay might or will go in there and beat Seattle, and strictly because of Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully the calf is healed. They say it's healing, but I think he has a chance to beat him. Any other quarterback in the league, no, but I think Green Bay is going to beat him.
Okay, Indianapolis heads up to New England.
Same type thing. I think this could be a close game. You got 2 good quarterbacks going, but I think Brady in New England, been there a whole bunch more than luck, will pull it out. So I think you got a Green Bay Patriots Super Bowl.
Wow, that'll be interesting. And really, I didn't give New England that much hope to get to the Super Bowl. I wasn't surprised they were in the playoffs. They had a lot of close games down the stretch that they won. Give Coach Belichick a lot of credit for that. He does a great job. He's a great motivator. He's got his own way. I wouldn't maybe call him a players type coach, more like his way or the highway, but I think his players respond to that, and I think you have to be a special person to play for him, but boy, he's a Hall of Famer with no questions asked. All right then, so there's our, and then your pick to win the Super Bowl will get you an early pick.
Yeah, I'll keep it going. I'll go with Green Bay.
All right, Green Bay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Aaron Rodgers, anyone that does insurance commercials can't be a bad guy, right? Okay, let's take a look at some of the bowl games that were of interest. Now, Nebraska played USC in the Holiday Bowl, and I thought that I was down in Texas. I thought that was a very interesting game. USC with Cody Kessler ends up winning that game. Nebraska had a couple of chances down the stretch, but they threw an interception. I don't think that tremendously surprises us at all. The new football coach in Nebraska is going to be Mike Riley. He came from Oregon State. That surprised me that he would leave Oregon State, but I don't think any surprise there. Yeah, there we go. Go Chargers. Yeah, interesting enough, and let me add this real quick now that Fritz has made to remind me of something here in my ear. The Chargers, who I like very much, had a chance to go to the playoffs. They beat San Francisco on Saturday night, week 15, or the 15th game, week 16. In the last week, if they would have won in Kansas City, and Kansas City had a backup quarterback this game, if they would have won the way things worked out, they could have gone to the playoffs. But and they're just a great December team. But the last weekend of the season, I was in Houston. I was at that Houston-Jacksonville game. The situation was that if Houston won and San Diego lost to Kansas City and Cleveland could beat Baltimore, then Houston would get in the playoffs. And it was a great experience being at that new Reliant Stadium. I got to see the old Houston Astrodome. But Houston held on. They won in the last 2 minutes and made a great defensive stand to beat Jacksonville, who had only won 3 games. Kansas City did their part. They beat San Diego. And then Cleveland, which had a disastrous December, Johnny Manziel and crew, led Baltimore through 3 quarters and then fell apart. Baltimore came back and won. Baltimore then went on, and Johnny Manziel, I'm sure, will go on somewhere next year. Maybe he'll be playing in the Canadian Football League. No, I'm kidding. I think Manziel will have a chance to do something next year. All right, Notre Dame and LSU. And I bring this game up. I got to listen to it on the way down to amusement park in the Galveston area. Notre Dame held on and won that game 38-31. Any surprise on that?
I think so, a little bit. I think, most people, myself included, thought how Notre Dame was playing towards the end of the year, that they had no chance. They had a quarterback kind of controversy again. I think LSU probably themselves thought they were going to win it, and Notre Dame pulled it out.
Okay, probably the most, I'll say the most surprising game. TCU. Well, we all know that TCU only lost 1 game. They didn't make the top 4. They weren't very happy. They felt they definitely should have been in the top 4. They felt, and they were pretty adamant, and they weren't quiet about it. They really thought they should have gone ahead of Ohio State. Well, Ohio State had other thoughts on their mind. But Ole Miss was a good football team. Ole Miss was in the top 3 or 4 for, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks. Ole Miss had a great year. And they defeated Ole Miss 41-3, and it wasn't really that close. 41-3. It was 41-0 midway through the 3rd quarter. It was complete domination. Maybe the Horned Frogs had a pretty good point.
Well, yeah, they made a statement, and they certainly put it on Ole Miss, which surprised a lot of people. I don't think it surprised people that TCU won, but the fashion they won in, because like you said, it seemed like a 70-0 game when you're watching it. It wasn't close. It wasn't as close as 41-3.
Definitely not. And then any surprise when Oregon just manhandled Florida State?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's one of those things where Florida State has been on the cusp each week of losing. That when they started getting behind to a team like Oregon, I don't think it was any surprise that Oregon just kind of kept adding on it. What was surprising to me is if you stayed on that game after it was over, that about 3/4 of Florida State's team didn't shake hands, just ran off the field. So that to me, being a coach, that was very interesting watching that. You win 28, 29 games in a row, shake everybody's hands. You lose one, you can't shake hands. So that might be a testament of why they had a hard season.
And one more thing to add about Florida State, I read when they got home, a lot of the players in their parking lot where the players' cars were, their tires were slashed. So evidently a lot of their fans were not happy with that loss, or maybe their enemies weren't happy with their loss, but that's a sad way to end it. Okay, lastly, Ohio State, Alabama, what happened to the Crimson Tide?
Great football game. I think it's one of those things where Ohio State just has that energy right now and that feeling. They feel like they're the underdog, and Alabama I don't think has been as good as championship teams in the past. Still a great football team. That one surprised me a little bit. I thought Alabama would win, but good for Ohio State. They're making a run.
And I might add, UCLA defeated Kansas State in the Alamo Bowl down in San Antonio. Bill Snyder, the legendary coach of Kansas State, he's going to go at least one more year. Good to hear that. All right, we'll have you back, Justus. Maybe in a couple weeks we'll talk about Syracuse baseball. Hope you enjoyed tonight. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. For Justus, I'm Tom Heck, bidding you a very pleasant good evening.